Hey, thanks for joining me. Often people kind of suggest or wonder if I can or will branch out and look at some other stuff, and they mention different kind of genres and characters and books and stories. Oftentimes it's stuff that, yes, I've seen it, I've already done it, or I've heard of it, but I don't own it. And sometimes it's stuff that it's a genre that maybe doesn't necessarily appeal to me. But that being said, any genre of anything will appeal to me if it's done in a way that's entertaining to my personal sensibilities. That's purely subjective. So I'm saying all that to say people sometimes ask, "Hey, have you read any manga?" And the answer is 99% no. I have not. But years and years ago, I I'm I'm trying to think of how long ago, at least 20, maybe 25 years ago, going through some bookstore, I think it was, I found the third volume of Star Wars Return of the Jedi manga, just like this, these smaller, thick books. I've got the camera zoomed in real close, but for anybody who's curious, like a size comparison, I'll just turn it sideways because I got my camera, up close. You know, this is your typical American comic book, but this book, I don't know if this is like a standard size format that they do for these things, but I found this book 3, volume 3 of Return of the Jedi, and the artist, if I remember correctly, Shinichi Hiramoto. I don't know if I've got them. I do. Holy shit. Haha. This is what I get for not being prepared, but then just getting lucky. I've already done a video on all of these. Now, the covers are by Adam Warren, but the artist, Shinichi Hiramoto. I would normally never be interested in manga comics. Don't usually grab my attention. It's not usually my thing. And also, seeing like illustrated adaptions of movies I love so rarely works. It's so rare. But this first one here, the 3 is the first one I ever got. I was able to find the other ones relatively quickly. But I remember just picking this up off the shelf. Let me set these other ones aside. And I flipped it open, and instantly, I was like, oh my God, that looks great. My problem with like vehicles, ships, and technology is when I'm very aware of what that stuff looks like and they don't get it right, it bugs the hell out of me. But I flip these open, and this guy gets all the technology flawlessly perfect. And he's got kind of this rough, sketchy style. And I was like, I just was flipping through it at this library or whatever the hell it was. And I got this and I was like, this is incredible. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And so I just kept flipping through it and I was like, well, what's the price tag? $10? Sold. So I bought this shit. I mean, like, look at this shot of the Ewok village. This was just unlike anything I'd ever seen. This shot, like I could just hear the music and the sound effects and the engine sounds of this vehicle landing down here straight from the movie. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen in terms of like movie adaptations. The only thing that kind of throws me off is that, Japanese comics, they read them opposite format, flipped from us. So to format these for an American audience, the Millennium Falcon, the cockpit is on the opposite side. It's mirrored incorrectly, but you kind of just have to, accept that. But all these technological vehicles are so perfect. And then the use of gray tones and motion and energy, I'm like, this is the gold standard for what technology and machines and motion and movement should look like for me as far as I'm concerned. So that was issue 3. And, I was eventually able to pick up all of them, and I was never disappointed. Look at these vehicles. It's just unbelievable to me. So I didn't actually start this video with the intention of, meaning to show off the Return of the Jedi. But I wanted just to kind of point out that even though it's a format that doesn't normally get my attention, done right, I will read anything if the artwork is just blowing me away. And I'm like, I can't believe how neat this stuff is. And even though it's got that weird kind of anime art style that I don't normally dig, for some reason, this stuff works with me. I'm on board. I am sold. Look at that shit. As the X-Wings kind of come, cruising down to the surface of the Death Star. Perfect technology. Anyway, it blew me away. And these were and are some of my most favorite things ever. It's informed my kind of thoughts on what this type of stuff could be. And I know I will never be a fraction as good as these guys, or this guy specifically, the Shin Ichihiro Moto. Absolutely beautiful stuff. So that being said, I was so goddamn blown away by that. Sometime later, I found the ones that you saw in front of you when we started. Star Wars Episode 1. I'm like, well, they got to be just as good. And in my opinion, it was not. That's what I thought when I first got these. Not nearly as good. Looking at them now, I think a lot of you will probably recognize the name Kia Asamiya. I hope I'm saying that name right. I don't know anything about that guy, except that I believe that's a name that's revered in these circles. And having flipped through these books once again for the first time in a long time, I was like, you know what? These look a lot better than I gave them credit for. It's, to the blind eye, you might just think it looks just the same, meaning just as good as those previous books. And the technology is all perfect. The gray tones that these manga books have, it's all there. But this Kia Asamiya, again, if I'm pronouncing his name right, he has a definitely different visual art style. His faces. I think this guy also, years ago, Marvel did like this anime invasion, manga invasion in their books and brought this guy on board to draw X-Men, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that was I know they brought somebody, and I'm sure it was him. I remember all these people saying, years from now, this will be the shot across the bow of a massive shift in American comics that will resonate forever. And it absolutely did not. I don't think it was, it just fizzled out like a bad fart and no one gave a fuck, myself included. That being said, this guy's work, I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, this is actually really good. Part of the problem is that it's based on the Phantom Menace, which I've grown to appreciate a little bit more. It's still garbage as compared to the original trilogy, but compared to the fucking trash that comes out from Star Wars product from Disney these days, the Phantom Menace seems like this quaint little cute little thing. But this guy can draw, and the action's there, the movement's there, but I do not like it as much as the artist on the other books. But there's a lot here that looks really incredible. Great, like, very on-model characters. Everything's looking really good. The Trade Federation stupid starship things there. Of course, Jar Jar's there, and it does kind of ruin it when you have to read the words. He's like, "Das is setting you up. Going through the planet core is bad bombing." You're like, oh, fucking kill me. But you gotta write the character the way it was in the movie, and that's the whole point. Jar Jar is one of the biggest missteps that George Lucas ever has done. Great shot of, was it Theed? Is that what it was called? On I don't think they ever said it, or if they did, I don't remember. But so it's all there. All the technology, perfect backgrounds, costumes. The guy's hyper talented, no doubt. The ships look great. The movement's good. I love the gray tones. I like the idea of having gray tones like this in a book that I would do. Like the glows of the lights and stuff like that. It all looks great. R2-D2 looks fantastic. Again, these Japanese artists, they excel at like technology and stuff like that when drawing it in a way that a lot of American artists just don't do. But yeah, I'm just kind of blasting through these because these are huge. We all know the story of Phantom Menace. There's no need to really, get into it. It is interesting that the Return of the Jedi one took that movie and broke it down into 4 volumes, and then they took this Phantom Menace and only gave it 2. I don't know that it needs more than 2, but I feel like the Return of the Jedi artist, he definitely decompressed the story and had scenes and drew them out for the visual kind of awesomeness that he could do, which is a huge contributing factor to why it's so long. And you know what? I'm fine with that. When it's that good, I'll take as many volumes as these guys will give me. When it's the Phantom Menace, I don't know. I don't know if I'm, there's not really much interesting story going on here. I don't remember if we get the pod race in this issue. I don't think we do. It's about to end. We're setting up the pod race. Great backgrounds. All the gray tones are freaking incredible. All the creatures are spot on. Yeah, so it ends with, oh, look, it's little Anakin Skywalker. I mean, I feel bad for the actor Jake Lloyd. That kid had some big problems after this movie. It kind of fucked up his life, and it really sucks. It should have been the greatest experience of his life, and it kind of fucked him up. It really sucks. These sketches in the back of the book, fantastic. So, that was just a hyper quick flip through of book 1. On to book 2. We get the pod race. We're going to get into some action here. Jabba the Hutt. But yeah, so the pod race, the vehicles take off. The use of lettering sound effects that they do in these type of books is very interesting. It's very unique. I don't know if I get why they do it and how they do it. I just have to admit that it kind of works. It's working. But yeah, all the technology, all the very specifically designed individual pod racers look exactly correct. Lots of speed and motion. But it was just not holding my attention a fraction as much as those Return of the Jedi books. And I bought these wanting to like them. I did not pick these up expecting to hate them. In fact, I was kind of thinking, well, the movie kind of sucked, but I bet you this will put together a better version of that story. And in a small way, that is true. But there's only so much dancing around the story and artistic kind of visual interpretation that you can do to kind of, you can't hide from the ridiculously kind of dumb story that is the Phantom Menace anyway. But they do about as good as I guess you could ever expect anybody to do. Then Darth Maul shows up, lightsaber shots. I always think that the way that they kind of portray swinging lightsabers with this like wide angle at the top really fits perfectly when those lightsabers are, flailing around. It looks like the perfect way to kind of illustrate that movement and motion. Very cool. But I'm just going to zip through these things. Good shot. All looks, exactly right. Lots of talking. That's part of the thing that sucks. The Return of the Jedi, I mean, the story is like the culmination of everything with the original Star Wars, so it just lends itself to more action and drama. And these are just like characters walking around and talking, and then they walk around and they talk, and then they sit and they talk, and then they walk and then they talk, and they stand and they talk, and then they talk, and then they stand and talk, and then they walk, and then they talk, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Like this entire, action stopped here, and then it's all talking all the way to about here. This much of the book is just talking heads. Like, fucking stop it. And again, I don't blame the artist. I believe he has all, creative control to, adapt the story in however the hell way he wants. But useless. I actually really dig this shot of the stupid Gungan warriors and they're riding whatever, coming out of the mist and the fog. That's right out of the movie, but those gray tones, the dark shadows up front and the faded out ones in the back, looks great. But now we're down to just a little tiny ass end of the book to have the whole space battle, and Padme going up to reclaim her throne, and the duel with Darth Maul. And again, sword fights don't translate the same in book form nearly as well as they do in movies, and that's one of the things that's hard to pull off. Again, Return of the Jedi artist, he did that last duel between Vader and Luke. He did it really well. And I don't have a problem with the way this one's portrayed, except that it's really kind of shortened down because they keep, going back and forth between all these other battles, and the actual lightsaber duel doesn't carry the weight that the movie did or that the Return of the Jedi books did. But he did really good. I mean, it's a hell of an effort. Here's where Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan gets separated, Qui-Gon gets stabbed, Obi-Wan yells, the rest of the stupid boring shit's going on. Stupid Jar Jar. And then the whole, again, there's not much you can do, but in the movie, when Obi-Wan gets freed from behind the laser shield wall and takes on Darth Maul by himself, that was one of the coolest kind of parts of the whole fight. It's just kind of paired, it's just cut down to like, they charge at each other, clash sabers once, twice, boom, Obi-Wan cuts Darth Maul's double-sided weapon in half, and now, block, force push, and Obi-Wan's down the pit. Again, it's hard to replicate the motion and moves and energy and excitement that you can see in a movie, but that entire Obi-Wan duel was down to just one page. But, he uses the Force, jumps up out of the pit, chops Darth Maul in half into two pieces, and then we wrap up the story and, agree with the council. Agree with you, the council does. Your apprentice, young Skywalker, will be. Okay. Well, it sets it up for him to slaughter children. The only thing that's not quite here, well, it's here, but if you don't have the other volumes of these manga books, it backs away from the planet, and then you can't hardly make it out, but there's a backed off on the planet, and there's these little light shapes. Now, if you don't know what comes in the later books, you might not even notice that it's there, and you can't see what it is. But I did get to see the subsequent books drawn by some other artist. Did not think they were worth it and was not going to pick them up. But I did look in the back. With the ending of every book, this turns into a silhouette, or not a silhouette, but like a giant ominous shape of Darth Vader's mask. And it's just barely beginning to form right here. Like this is like part of his like shoulder harness, or as you can see, slight indications of his mouthpiece thing, that triangular shape, and then his like helmet shape. It's barely there, but it is there. I'm going to bring it up so you can see. And in the second volume, The Attack of the Clones, it's even more visible. And in the final book, Revenge of the Sith, of this, it's fully formed there. And that's really cool. That's a really interesting, like, foreboding shot. It's the most genius thing in this whole thing, which honestly to me was quite the disappointment, again, as compared to these. It's not even the same. But that's just personal opinion, artistic preference. So that's it. That's all I've got, I guess. Worthwhile effort. Not bad at all. Just, not nearly as good as the Return of the Jedi one. So anyway, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.